Wave Cap Prince, which is Wave Cap Prince is rare for us. So we've got Prince Amukamara here and Victor Cruz as our special guest. Dude, thank you so much for joining, man.
No, my pleasure, man. Thanks for having me. Obviously, me and Prince go way back, like wave caps, apparently. So
I'm sure we'll have a couple stories, but just to let the audience know, for us, it's such a big deal to have a better understanding of you as a person, of what your interests are, life, during and after football, especially on the business and finance side. But I would be remiss if we didn't talk a little football. I'm sure people know who you are, but a little bit of that story would be amazing. The undrafted side, what that felt like for you. If there was ever that moment where you were like, damn, I don't know if this is for me, and how you got through that.
Yeah, I mean, there were so many ups and downs in my career that had me, in a mode where I could have just quit, or I kind of there were definitely those moments where you just kind of like, man, you don't know if this could be the end of your journey. Like the journey could end here and you have to shift and figure out what it's going to be. So I remember just going to UMass and making that decision to go to a 1AA school and just try my best and just live with the results and just see what comes of it, knowing that I'm just put myself out there, put everything I had out there to the people and let the decision be made on where I stand. So when I got the opportunity to sign on the Giants as a free agent, I mean, you couldn't tell me that I wasn't drafted, right? Like I went to like a local pro day a couple of weeks before, and they give you gear, like the hat, shirt, like a little outfit. So when they called me and told me I was a free agent, I literally like grabbed that hat, put it on, and walked outside, and everybody thought I got drafted.
No way.
I was like, yeah, like I'm not gonna say no. I'm technically going to the Giants. I just didn't, a lot of people just didn't understand what a free agent was, especially people that like they saw me with a hat on coming outside. They were excited for me. So yeah, I was definitely capping, literally capping, literally. But with that being said, going to the Giants and just putting my best foot forward and just exceeding expectations, and just staying focused the whole time and just taking advantage of my opportunity, honestly. And when I got that first start, week 3, I knew that it felt like a moment, right? And I had, it felt like a moment 2 weeks prior because I had a game against the Redskins against the Washington football team, where I dropped the ball. The sun was in my eye. Prince wouldn't know anything about this because he's a fluffy DB that doesn't get paid to catch the ball. They got paid to deflect the ball. So sun got in my eyes. I dropped the football. Didn't play again. Like didn't get back in the game. Didn't even dress the next week.
Wow.
It was just like, okay, my days might be numbered here. Like I made this team, but it could be a wrap. Week 3 rolls around. A couple guys got hurt. A couple guys got injured. Now I have to play. I'm the guy that's been there the longest outside of Hakeem and Mario and everybody. So now I play week 3. And then ended up first catch up the sideline, breaking 2 tackles, get into the end zone in Philadelphia. Philly fans supremely angry at me for scoring. And then that's when the salsa dance was born and things like that. So just that whole journey,
you touched on that a little bit. I've actually I asked a couple of friends what would you want to know? And they're like, we got to know where it started. Like Ray's got his dance, and then it's like very intimate with his mom. Like I don't think you're a Latin guy. I'm pretty sure you're not. Like where did that come from?
Whoa! Hold on. I'm not gonna answer that for Cruz, but I do want to say this. The Eagles was coming in that year with so much hype. The Eagles was known as the dream team. Like they had Asante Samuel, Dominique. Rogers Cromartie and Nnamdi Asomugha on defense. They were almost like the best DBs at that time. And I don't know who Cruz, they call it peanuts when you take peanuts over. I don't know who Cruz did that on the end zone, but Cruz is right. Like that was his coming out party. And Philly has the worst. I mean, it has to be one of the worst fans if you're an opponent. I'm sure if you play for Philly, actually, it could be bad too if you play for Philly if you're not winning. But to Philly, it's crazy. So go ahead, Cruz. My bad. But yeah, the salsa.
No, that makes sense. And just to correct you a little bit, I am half Puerto Rican. My mom is Puerto
Rican. All right.
So I grew up in a very Puerto Rican household. Like I grew up dancing. My grandmother Monday through Sunday, no matter what time it was, she had music playing and she was dancing, either by herself or with my grandfather or with me or, whatever it was. She was on that dance floor, especially if it was summertime. It was hot. Like she was
cooking. Yep.
She was the cooking. You smell the food, like the whole thing.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it started. And then fast forward, as we got to the league, I'm getting my first start. That week is approaching. And Coach Mike Sullivan, Sully, obviously, Prince, and he came up to me and he was like, yo, you're getting your start. Like, you got to do something to rep the culture this week, this month, this Hispanic Heritage Month. Like, no better time than the present. And I was just like, Coach, are you silly? Like, I just dropped the ball 2 weeks ago, didn't even dress last week, and you're telling me I need to go dance out here? Like, I'm just trying to get a first down and make sure Eli ain't looking at me crazy by the end of the game. So I told him I'd do it just to get him out of my face. All week long, he's looking at me, he's praying for me, telling me to, do it. So game day, he looks at me. I was like, I got you. Thinking that I wouldn't score in this game. I'd probably just have a couple nice plays. You never know. First catch of the game is the one up the sideline where I break 2 defenders and I'm going up 65-yard touchdown or something. Wow. And I distinctly remember crossing the end zone, and I look up and I'm like, damn, I got to do the dance now. Like, I can't. It just makes sense. Like, it just made sense how it all transpired. And then I started dancing, man. And then, ironically, Telemundo, which is the Spanish network out here in the Tri-State area, they picked it up. And my grandmother was watching, and she was like, God bless the dead, but she was watching and was like, you popped up on my TV today. Like, we never show football on this TV, at least not American football. And she was blown away and was like, every time you get into the league, every time you get in the end zone, you got to do that dance for me. And I was like, done.
Wow. That's awesome. So a lot of what the show is too, we talk about, I know Prince will give you a little bit of love here, but we talk about some of the major influences in your life and I know I'm Cuban and Mexican. So my mom, my dad, like my family, like we were raised by a community of people. Right. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if how big of an influence family was to you, if they're the people you looked up to, or if you had, sports icons too, that kind of helped raise you and bring you in the league.
Well, it's interesting you say that, especially for me early on in my childhood, was definitely that community. Like, it's kind of sad that these kids kind of don't have that, at least that level of community. It's just different nowadays. Like, I would go outside at a very young age, and you knew the community is what was going to take care of you and watch over you. And even people that weren't even my family, like they were just people that grew up with me, knew my grandmother, knew my mom, watched my mom be born. Like, these are people that may not be family, but they're embedded within our family and in our community, whether we wanted them to or not. So anytime I was outside, they would take care of me or reprimand me when I wasn't doing something right, all of that. So it was very much community in the beginning. And then as I got older, that kind of shifted. I had more mentors. My dad, before he passed, was my mentor, just teaching me the way of life and things, how things go, how to be a man, how to own up to your responsibilities, how, things like that. And then as I got into the league and started to navigate that world, it was Harry Carson, who's a guy that I still speak to this day. And he just, guides me through life. He talks to me about different experiences, how he was, how he felt when he retired and the things he went through mentally, physically, emotionally, as a husband, as a father, like all these different things. So it's good to have someone like that to talk to, on that level. And then Strahan too, like, as of late, as I've gotten more into the TV space, he's just someone I've tapped into just to pick his brain and just even get his opinion about certain things, and kind of see where his head is at on things that kind of cross my plate and what he sees for me kind of on the outside looking in.
Dang, I didn't even know, because I'm glad Iggy asked that question, because that was one of my questions, because I didn't know Harry Carson, because Harry Carson is so soft-spoken. I didn't even know he was dropping gems like that. No, that's awesome. I'm gonna come back to that. I want to close the football book on so that after Eagles, I think another big game was the Jets. Revis is like, who is this guy? Never heard of you. You take 99 on his head, and you were like, yeah, like I bet he's heard of me now. And then we get into this. We go into the Super Bowl, and all I'm thinking is, not if the salsa is going to happen, like when's the salsa going to happen? Because you've been getting the end zone all in big games that year.
But I hadn't got it all playoffs. Remember, I didn't get it all playoff. I mean, I see more triple teams in my entire life, this entire But that's why Hakeem and Mario was getting off. And
Yeah,
the tight
yeah.
end. So I was
Yeah.
as long as we're getting off and we winning, like I'm good. It's all good.
So you hit a slant, bomb, you catch it. It was like a 1 yard, 3 yard touchdown, but it doesn't matter. You're in the end zone. Was that the biggest stage you've ever hit the salsa? Like that was.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Like for sure. I mean, there's still people like I know it's real when I go on like vacation somewhere, like out of the country, or like
somebody still hits you with,
and somebody still hits me with it, or somebody's like, "Yo, I remember that," or I watched the Super Bowl, because you know a lot of people, they may not watch a bunch of regular season games and see all of that, but everyone in the world watches the Super Bowl, dog. Like you might not have heard of these teams ever in your life. You might have grew up under a rock in Jamaica somewhere. But you're going to crawl up under that rock and come watch the Super Bowl because that's just what the people do. You know what I mean? So when I go to these foreign countries or these places and they see me dance, especially anywhere of Latin descent, like any island place that they speak Spanish, they're very familiar with who I am. And the whole thing is just hilarious when you pull up to these places and on check-in, the valet is dancing or like, you know, the desk is dancing. It's a beautiful thing. But you know, to score in the Super Bowl, a lot of people don't know, in that same end zone, maybe like 6 or 7 rows up, my high school football coach and my godfather, who was my AAU basketball coach, who basically watched me grow up in sports and the whole thing, were sitting literally right there.
Wow.
And it was just, it was a moment. It was a moment for sure.
So cool.
Jeez.
How does that, when you have that experience and they hit you with the little salsa, now that you kind of transitioned out, how does that make you feel? Does that still feel really good to you? Or yeah, forever, yeah?
Absolutely.
You don't even know. Like, I remember, like it was big when I think KD and LeBron was playing 1-on-1, and then KD scored. And
wow.
No, they did. They were playing flag or something.
Flag,
remember?
Yeah,
flag. Yeah. Facts. That was. I still remember that. That was pretty crazy. And I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. Even when I had met Barack Obama, and I was in like a line to like meet him at the time. It was maybe the first time I met him. And I was at some benefit or whatever. And I'm in the line, like going to meet him, and he's with someone else, and we're not, like I'm on deck. And he kind of shaking someone's hand, and he sees me out the corner of his eye, and he's like, "Oh, no way." And
my God.
I was like, "Nah, you can't do this to my heart, yo. Like, I can't. Like, what? Like, how are you?"
You're like, I'm done. I'm done.
I could die. I could die now.
Yeah.
Great. I'm good. But that was definitely a moment. But the salsa, man, I'm telling you, if things hit the fan, I turn around 50, 60. Me and Prince gonna be doing salsa instruction videos and making that bread.
Right.
Crazy. I'm doing my Nigeria. Oh wow. No, I'm kidding.
You can't do that, Prince. Okay.
But so you win the Super Bowl. The next couple of years, Pro Bowl, ball out. You get paid. Not to mention this, I call him Patterson's finest. He's from Patterson, New Jersey, so he basically wins Super Bowl in his hometown, which is awesome. But then that same Eagles field where you turn up, that same Eagles field, you experience tragedy. Can you talk about that? I know that was huge. You're going through a lot that year. Talk about that.
Yeah, it was an interesting moment for me because, you know, and anybody that understands when you get hurt in the NFL or any professional sport, you just don't know how you're going to come back from that, right? You just don't know what your body's going to be like. I've never been cut open in my life before that time. I never heard anything kind of, you know, pop or explode in my body the way that felt in that moment. Like, you just don't know. That was the most indecisive, unaware. I had no control. Like, it just is what it is. I got to bear with it and get through the other side. At the same time, I didn't understand how mentally and emotionally that would affect me because I'm home. I'm still facing that same indecision. My leg is in a sling, being in this motorized thing that moves it on its own, and I'm just laying there. My family and friends are, you know, they're around, they help me, they're with me, but you can tell they're just like there for the moment or just like, you know. So for the most part, it was just me and the fam and trying to figure it out and be as normal as possible. And it weighed on me for a minute, you know, and as anything does. And then I come back from that injury feeling good. And then boom, it happens again. I get a different injury, a calf injury that kind of sidelines me for the rest of that year. And all of these like weird little fluky things start to happen. And, it's just one of those moments where you really take a look at yourself and you really, figure out and understand like what you really want to do. You understand how this game works. You understand your position in it. You understand more or less how many years you have left in it. So how do you want to approach the next couple of years? And I think just being able to come full circle from all of that and get back on the field and prove that I can still play, maybe not to everybody else, but to myself. You know what I mean? So when I came back and had that game winner against Dallas, the little kind of cross around the end zone, I was done. Like after that, I could have do whatever the rest of that year. I'm good. The fact that I came back, I played well in the game, I scored the touchdown to put us ahead. In my mind, I had done everything I wanted to do, and everything after this was a bonus.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And I'm transitioning to this too. Is like, so we were talking about business. I have it in my notes that like you're one of the dudes I looked up to business wise. Like I even told you when you came to the Bears, everyone wants the Cruz model. Like how is Cruz? How does he get into these spaces? How's he doing this and stuff? Tuck was a guy who moved well and stuff like that. And so you kind of parlayed that injury. You made it's Showtime, right?
Mm-hmm.
You made a Showtime quick little doc about that, and I'm sure that's through your relationships with Showtime. And so how did that come along, and can you talk about that?
Yeah, I just wanted to document the process. I think, a lot of times as athletes, you get these injuries and you want to document them and you want to document the return. And because it's interesting, right? People always see injuries happen. People always see these athletes on the flip side get injured and missing a substantial amount of time. And then you just see them come back and you're like, oh, they're back. But what happened during that time? What transpired? What ups and downs happened? What setbacks were there? So I just wanted to kind of chronicle all of that and kind of put it out there, good or bad, for the people to see and for the kids to see and for everyone to kind of understand that I've experienced everything. I think that was on purpose. I think God wanted me to put me through that on purpose, to experience a Super Bowl, Pro Bowl level things. And then on the flip side, understand what it is to be hurt and not be available or not be there and get cut. And like, those are all things I needed to experience. I've never been cut from anything in my life. You know what I'm saying? So to be cut twice, and then I was cut twice in 12 months. I was cut twice.
Jeez.
Maybe less than that. So it was just like, you go through a period of depression and you go through a period of like, is this for me? How am I? What's the next steps? What does that look like? And luckily I had fam and good people around me. But those injuries really put everything in perspective for you, especially as you get up there in age. And football may not be the most important thing to you at that moment anymore, because you have kids, you have life, you have parents, you have other things that start to weigh more and become more important to you as you mature and as you get older.
I was going to mention that. I think, especially in the media now, there's so much more openness to talk about athletes going through depression and having a difficult time and not just being that warrior on the field. I think Dak Prescott was really vocal about that this past year. Talk about a little bit about like what was your headspace like? Where were you during that especially that second injury, right? It's like so excited to be back, and then it hits me again. What did you do to get through some of those things?
I was tight, man. It varied from anger to like sadness to like more pressure again. You know what I mean? Because like at the time, like I was getting paid a lot of money, and I wasn't out there to perform and to earn it. And that was the biggest part. Was like, I just want to earn this shit. As a football player, you want to prove that you can play and prove that you can still play at this level, especially coming off of the level that I already displayed. I want to get back to that. You know what I mean? So you just want to earn your keep. And like you're sitting back and making money, but you're just like, this isn't fulfilling. And it didn't feel good to me in the moment, So I think my headspace kind of going through those ups and downs was like, just stay locked in, like stay focused, find other things, find other opportunities, find other hobbies, dig deep into yourself and see how you can come out of all of this. And I think I did a good job of kind of, putting eggs in other baskets and figuring out things for myself, and then coming back to those baskets once football was over to kind of recoup the rewards.
Oh, yes, you did. A lot of people don't know Cruz was a young entrepreneur. He had this brand called Young Whales.
Very early on.
And Young Whales was like, to me, it was a brand that you would see not at Hot Topic, but you would see it like at a Tilly's, Zoomies. It was like a cool little, it was like a hip brand. But Cruz, you've always been a young entrepreneur, but you've been in different spaces from like the fashion world. I remember I would always hit this dude up every time around the same time. Where you at? I'm in Milan. He's like at a fashion show and stuff like that. And then he got me into going to it because even though everyone knows I'm like worst dressed, even though I don't dress to everyone's liking, but it still interests me, the preparation stuff, the whole experience. But he's into fashion. I didn't even know about you have some dealings with Uninterrupted and,
Correct.
and stuff like that. And so you're on the talk, you've been on the talk. Just talk about stuff that like those eggs that are in the basket.
Yeah, I think it started. And you know what's funny is that early on, I didn't even know I wasn't doing this for like later. You know what I mean? Like in the moment, I mean, I think there was some cognizance of like, oh, this could potentially be something I'd be into later, but it wasn't like a conscious effort to be like, oh, this is going to set me up for later. It was just like shit that I wanted to do in the moment and like shit that I thought was dope in the moment, like co-hosting GMA with Hoda. And I thought this was dope. Like I'm about to in front of millions of people that watch this. Like I'm good. Like, of course I want to do this. So I encourage like that's the message for me out there is like, don't be afraid to try things right now as an athlete. You know what I mean? While you're in it as a professional, because now you're going to get the most eyes. You're going to get the most people wanting to talk to you because you're a professional currently right now. When you're retired, there's a different thing there, unless you're the Brady's of, you know, people that names still resonate. But as you're a player, you're live, do any and everything. So me co-hosting on GMA for whatever 2-3 times that I did, the showrunner loved me from there. Now she moves over to E. They want to start a new show in New York City. She thinks of me because of the years. That was 4 years prior. And then she heard I retired because she's a Giants fan. And she's like, let's see if he wants to do it. It's just little things like that, those eggs, right? I put those eggs in early, put them in the basket. Once I was done, I was like, oh, like I can go back to that basket and grab those eggs. And now they've hatched and now I'm here. So, and with that comes CBS and comes different opportunities as I put my personality out there and as I put myself out there. And that was the biggest thing for me was always be in the right circles. I always try to do things and be in places that make sense. I'm never just out just to be out. You know what I mean? Like there's always a rhyme or reason for where I'm going or who I'm meeting up with or whatever it is. There always has to, I mean, aside you're meeting up with friends, but like if there's a motive, like there's always somewhere to be and always in the right circles. And I think that's led me to be where I am today and making these resources and opportunities come to life.
What are some of the favorite things you're working on? Right? Like what excites you now? What gets you out of bed now?
Oh man! So I just started Blue Chip, which is a platform to help athletes kind of. Say that again.
The Blue Chew or Blue Chip?
Blue Chip. Blue Chip. It's called Blue Chip.
That's a different brand.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Different brand, friend.
So I just started.
Excuse Prince, Victor. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sure. I already know how this happened. So I just started this thing called Blue Chip, which is a platform for athletes of all, not just football players. We got baseball players. We got some soccer players. We just want people or athletes specifically, to own their own brands, right? You sign with Nike or you sign with one of these other brands. You can make as much product as you want. You're still only getting 5% of $100, 100% of you. You're giving them 100% of you. They're putting their logo on it, and you get a stipend from that. Whereas you can design everything that you want to design. We have an entire back office, designers, everything. And then you can put that into the market, and you get 90% of your money instead of 5%. So that's the whole point behind that. And
utilizing the audience that you've built.
Like, these athletes have millions of followers on Instagram. Like, if you get half of the people to buy something, you're good. You've done something right. You know what I mean? So between Blue Chip, getting guys acclimated on that, between designing footwear with Pierre Hardy, which I have some things coming around holiday, we did some dope footwear I'm excited about, and then we kind of lowered the price point on that so more people can go out and get it, even though it's a luxury item. The price down on that. So between golf, I've been finessing golf. My daughter plays golf. She's been golfing since 5 years old. So I've been golfing for a year now. But with that being said, within a year of me golfing and putting it out into the universe, the PGA Tour hit me to pull up to Liberty National this past weekend.
Wow.
It rained, so we couldn't make it. And then Hublot is sponsoring an entire golf outing for me, which you guys are going to be invited to. It's sometime after Labor Day, in like the next 3-4 weeks here.
Amazing.
So like, it's just me putting these things out there, man. And I think don't be shy, don't be afraid, don't be scared of what people think. Like, I just don't care about any of that, and I'm just gonna continue to put myself out there and see what sticks. Some things might not stick, and that's fine. But I'm not gonna die, without taking the risk or having a regret that I didn't try something 20 years ago when I had the chance.
How do you? So, a guy like you that has so many opportunities that are kind of coming your way, what compass do you use? Like, how do you gauge the opportunity? Is it just like a gut feeling, this sounds really cool, I want to do it? Or is there something else that you use to judge whether or not it's something you really want to dive into? Because it sounds like when you dive in, like, you're in.
I'm fully in. Yeah. I think there is that gut feeling of when you first hear about something and it crosses your plate, what emotion does it give you, right? You got to trust that first instinct of, oh, wow, that could be beneficial, I can use that. Or is it like, nah, I don't know, that could still use some work, or that's not something for me. So it's about you having your gut feeling. Where did the opportunity come from? Always gauging or understanding the people and the different types of people that present ideas to you. Always understand that part of it too. And then at the end of the day, is this something that I'm going to use on a daily basis? Like, is this something that I like to talk about? Because if you don't like to talk about it, if you don't like to wear nice clothes that you're going to design or wear things, or it's not going to be true to you. You're not going to be as excited about it when you talk about it, when you do promo or media, or even when you're promoting it during the process. Like, it's not going to speak to you because like I'm never designing something that I'm not going to wear. Like, I'm always going to wear or use or promote. Like, there's always going to be things that I take a liking to that I'm going to be a part of, uninterrupted, have ownership in that. Obviously, another athlete-driven platform to kind of bring us to the next level. Of course, that's going to be right up my alley. Like, that's what we want. Athletes always want to have their own voice and portray that and give their own voice to the masses. So, of course, I'm going to be behind something like that. So it's about your gut feeling and then knowing who the opportunity came from and then going out there and being excited about it because it's something that you can take a liking to.
I love that. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Cruz, Prince, you got something?
Yeah, Cruz. When would you say that? Like I know in football, you said that that Dallas game was like, okay, like after this, like I'm content. Anything on top of this is it's just cherries on top. But like in the business world or in the fashion world, like fashion world specifically, I remember you introduced me to Anna Wintour, and I didn't even know who this lady was. But then after learning from you and I've seen The Devil Wears Prada, I'm like, oh wow, this is who Anne Hathaway was like portraying or whatever. And this is who the movie was about. And then after meeting her, she always has her little bangs and wears these big sunglasses. And I was just like, wow, she's basically the queen of Vogue. Like, she runs the fashion industry. And so you got the nod to go to the Met Gala. And I didn't even know what the Met Gala is. And if you don't know what the Met Gala is, it's like the fashion event of the fashion events. Like, it's the biggest thing and stuff like. And I never knew about it until I met Cruz. And then so every year I tuned in. Okay, what's the theme this year? Who's coming this year? Would you say, Cruz, like that was probably one of your biggest like moments in the fashion world?
I think it was one of, and I think I might have got another.
Because everyone still rocks the Cruz's. I don't know if they're called the Cruz ones, whatever, but I think that was
airframe cruises. Yeah.
I think that was another big thing. But sorry, keep going.
No, it's definitely up there. I mean, I mean, I'm just blessed to have. There's so many. I mean, the Givenchy campaign before any athlete was really doing any of that. Like, I knew that was a big deal when I was getting hit up by like people that never. Like Jay hit me one time about that and was like, "Yo, like, congrats." Jay-Z, of course, and he was like, "Yo, kudos on that." Like that one was like you could feel me breaking down a barrier, like that one kind of tore through the stratosphere of fashion. It disrupted something. Something happened when I did that. I truly felt that on that during that campaign, and literally being on set with like Donatella Versace and her coming up to you and pinching your cheeks and saying, "Oh my God, so cute," and I'm just looking like, "What? Like you're Donatella?" Like, thank you, I guess. Like it was just crazy. But between the collaborations, between the obviously working with Nike, say what you want about them, but they're at the top. Like storytelling, materials, technology, the things they do, how they roll out product, it's incredible. And just to be behind those walls for even just one time, designing a shoe, having those conversations. I mean, I would tell them my favorite. Literally, I'm at the table and I'm telling them my favorite car, and like I love Ferraris and I love the quilted leather seats in mine. Remember, I had the Ferrari at the time.
Yeah.
These quilted leather seats, and I wanted a shoe with 2 straps and still wanted it to be a luxury, a casual shoe, not a training shoe. I wanted it to be a lifestyle shoe. And it was the first lifestyle shoe ever by a football player. And I wanted it to like look like something. And literally as I'm talking, they were sketching. One of the Mark Dolce at the time was sketching and already had like a shell of it was wild. And we were just literally 45 minutes of us talking and asking questions and getting to know me. And he already had something kind of like foundational.
You're like, yeah, that's kind of it.
And I'm like, that's actually kind of fire. Like, can we sample that right now? Like, what's up? But if anybody knows the process, it's a long process, right? With Nike, it's like they get their samples back in like 6 months, which is funny in the high fashion space and the luxury space. Samples come back in 3 months. So it's just like, it's crazy how in the high fashion space they get a faster return on things.
Even like the crazy couture stuff is like 3 months.
Crazy couture stuff, 3 months. Like they can get it done. Footwear though, I don't know about clothing and things like that. Footwear specifically, if there's luxury items, I don't know why they can just get it turned around a little quicker than like a Nike shoe.
Yeah. You mentioned like you kind of felt that breaking down barriers moment. I always try and kind of creep on the Instagram of the folks that are coming on. There's a lot of what I would call social activism stuff on your page as well. Talk a little bit about some of the things that are important to you, some of the things that are meaningful, and I guess some ways that you interact in that space.
Yeah, I think it was a huge deal for me, obviously, coming off of last year too, was supporting more Black businesses, understanding, what this world is and how it operates, and how I needed to do a better job of putting Black and brown people at the forefront of a lot more things that I do. If that means, making sure I have African-American photographers for things that I do. And I just wanted to create more of a conscious effort in supporting that. And I think it started with my Instagram account. Well, it actually started with obviously the Black Lives Matter movement and the social injustice that was going on just a year ago. And kind of all of that having an effect on me and having an effect on my child too, because I had to explain to her about all of this stuff. She's not there yet in school to have these conversations and to have these talks. They're also not studying that at this moment. So I have to be the one that's probably expedited that process and had to talk to her about, because in the moment, right, I couldn't just talk to her about George Floyd. I had to talk to her about slavery so that she can understand why we get to George Floyd. So as we're watching CNN and we're watching George Floyd and all of this taking place in the rallies and things like that, I'm talking to her about that. And I'm like, wait, I have to rewind and talk to her about everything, which brought me to a place where I was in a rough spot just mentally as a Black man navigating through life, even at this level, at this stage that I've grown to, that I've, earned to have the right and blessed to be at this level. It still affected me because I'm still a Black man in society. I still have to walk out the same doors, walk in the same Target, stores that everybody else goes to. And I don't know if that day could be my last. You just don't know, you truly don't know what could happen out there with one person just decides to take matters into his own hands, and it could go crazy. And
I think Brandon Marshall had an incident, I think immediately after that was caught on camera. So it was like, you're right. I think most people who know you see you as this sort of almost untouchable figure, but when it happens to you or Brandon Marshall or name your celebrity, African American guy, girl, Mexican, Cuban, whatever, like it becomes very humanizing, and I can see that through the content. So I wanted to touch on that.
Yeah, no, for sure, and I think it hits home for a lot of people that were going through things or felt different ways throughout that process and throughout that time, because it, and then at the same time we're in a pandemic, so it forces you to look within yourself on like. Right. What could I be doing differently? What am I doing? What have I been thinking this whole time, not supporting Black initiatives? Like, I should have been doing this long ago. Right? I should have been requesting Black photographers, or I'm not showing up type of thing. Like, requesting more Black people in the room at certain brands that I deal with, because I didn't feel they were making the right decisions. I didn't feel right for them. Like, having those tough conversations, the real thing,
No, that's awesome. Are there any groups that you're passionate about now that you want to tell people about? Any websites and any charitable organizations?
Well, I just try to follow all these. Obviously, Instagram has schooled me a lot, and then I'm having a lot of dialogue with a lot of these people. But I think BlackLivesMatter.com is one that I always go to, and then there's another website that's within Black Lives Matter that has these page full of Black-owned businesses that you can go to, and literally pick your choice. And even go on Instagram. I mean, I do searches on Instagram for Black-owned businesses all the time, and I find a ton. And I order things and I show support. Sometimes I pull up if it's local. Like, I really made a conscious effort to really switch things up.
And what about yours? There, the Victor Cruz Foundation.
And obviously, the Victor Cruz Foundation. We've done a lot of work towards STEM education specifically, and as well as financial literacy. But obviously, there's always a component of putting, social injustice in there, figuring out how to include. It's about inclusion for us. Yes, we're talking about STEM education, but we want to include as many people as possible. So we try to get out to the tri-state area, try to extend our hand. We want to do something with the San Francisco 49ers, who has a STEM education program built into their platform already, which is incredible. And I don't think anyone even knows that. So we're just trying to find different creative ways to keep the kids engaged and enticed about science and learning it like in a hands-on way, and not the way we probably learned it from a textbook, falling asleep from some teacher regurgitating what the galaxy looks like or whatever.
Right.
And
I got to. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I think it's worth to mention, to piggyback on what Cruz said. Like, I feel like a lot of people, how they combat what Cruz said is like, okay, but now you're doing what was being done to Black people. Now you're doing it to white people by just choosing Black owned. And I feel like they kind of miss it, because it's like, no, we're trying to not even the score, but just elevate this community or our community up just a little bit, just because like generations and generations have had so many like compound situations of being dealt the wrong card. So we're just trying to like, hey, let's just lift us up just a little bit. And I seen that at the Barclays Center, like when the Barclays Center opened, like, I don't know if this is a rumor, Cruz, but help me out. But I remember someone told me like, hey, it's like mostly Black people there, like mostly people from like Brooklyn in that area. And I went there, it was like Atlanta. Like and Atlanta's probably like, when I went to Atlanta and I've just seen Black people like everywhere, I was just like, wow, like this. And it's not even just in, this might be a bad stereotype, but not even just in like the Popeyes or whatever. It's like Black people are like
everywhere
in Atlanta, and that's how it was in Barclays Center. Like it was just like Black people everywhere. So I think like Jay-Z, I think he had his hand in it, but he did a great job in employing just mostly black workers in that area and stuff like that. So I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, that was huge. I mean, that was obviously also part of the initiative for him, right? It was employing as many people as possible and bringing more businesses to the area, right? Because now they see this huge stadium, this huge arena. Like, there's going to be people there. We need to put more businesses around that area so that people can A, have jobs, and B, so this economy can thrive in this area so people aren't robbing and stealing every day because they have a job and they have money and they have, they have resources.
Right.
So I think that was just the biggest thing too, is just having, resources for these people to use and think about it, right? At the root level, all we want to do is be equal. It's called social inequality. We just want to be equal.
Right.
Bro. We can't even be equal. Like y'all want us to just be down here all day, just stay below. But now, obviously, there's a certain handful of Black people that have become equal. But now, as a population, as a group, as an entire society, a community, we want to be lifted up. And now we're making more of a conscious effort from every celebrity all the way on down to just grassroots communal stuff. You're seeing a change. And it's going to take time, but, we got to be at the forefront of it because we might not even see it. Our kids might not even see it, Prince. It might be their kids, but we got to keep our foot on the gas.
Victor, like I have to say, you might be the most well-rounded guest we've had, from the football career to the personal life and the business and the charitable component. Like I've loved this conversation, man. Thank you so much for joining us. I've only got one or two more things, Prince. I don't know if you have anything, any closing stuff. Yeah. So the platform is called Win Daily, and so we always like to ask this question as we end our conversations: is what does winning daily mean to you, and how do you go about doing that every single day?
What winning daily means to me is that every day I try to wake up with like a task. And maybe not a physical one. Maybe it's an emotional task some days. Maybe it is a physical one some days. But I'll try to wake up with a task and say, hey, how am I going to approach every situation today? How am I going to be calm through everything that goes on today? I mean, I meditate every morning, which kind of prepares me for the day. But I always want to make sure I set some sort of goal. You know what I mean? Like, make sure my mom is set today, or make sure I go to sleep with an even keel today. Make sure I read before bed. Make sure, mostly it's fatherly shit too, right? Make sure Kennedy, reads before she goes to sleep. Make sure she's not on her laptop all day long, mobbing away. So I just try to create little mini goals for myself. And I think it's just as an athlete, right? Like I just used to create these goals used to be, all right, I got to win my one-on-ones today. I sucked yesterday.
Right.
Prince thought he had me today, but I really beat him. But I got to make sure I beat him today. Like those little battles within my head, I got to create new battles for myself. I got to create new challenges so that I wake up and I'm like, all right, let's get to the money today. So it's about creating those little challenges for myself, whether it be something as small as dominate your workout, even though there's no game on Sunday, or get Kennedy together because she's your priority today because you're on daddy duty. So
I love that, man. Thank you so much. Where can people find you? Where can social, whatever, any plug you want to make?
Man, you can find me. Go to the at Victor Cruz, VictorCruzFoundation.com. Actually, VictorCruzFoundation.org. Excuse me. You can find anything about the foundation there. All things about STEM and things we have coming up. You can go to at Victor Cruz on Instagram if you want to see me and the things that I'm doing on a daily basis. You can tune into E-News. I'm on there all the time. Daily Pop, Nightly Pop. I do that as well. And then, yeah, man, check out BlueChip.com. Check out your favorite athletes, buy some clothes from them, shop with them, be a part of their lifestyle. We appreciate it. And be on the lookout for some Pierre Hardy, Victor Cruz product around the holidays. I'll leave it at that.
Affordable.
Around the $5 range, but affordable.
Awesome. Victor, thank you, bro. Appreciate you, man, very much.
Come on, guys. Have a good one. Appreciate you, Prince.
Yes, sir.